Okay, I'm back with another video here for the Hardwood Paroxysm Substack, and I watched the Lakers on Thursday night, and it was a really entertaining game between them and the Denver Nuggets. I got to see them up close and personal. I always like seeing teams, and then I like, you see things about teams that maybe you won't notice, but I also just I have so many questions about this Lakers team that I feel like I have thoughts and informed information on, but I really kind of want to get into it. And to do that, I'm actually going to bring in a buddy of mine, and his name is Anthony Irwin, and you can find him online at Anthony Irwin LA. If you're one of the folks that hangs out on Twitter, you can catch him on his YouTube channel, The Lakers Lounge. You can also catch him on the Offsides app, which I think is absolutely phenomenal. It's just I love what you guys are doing over there, Anthony. It's really cool what you guys are doing.
Thank you very much for having me. Offside has been, I was literally just talking to Pete about this. It's really invigorating to be a part of something in just this team again. It reminds me of back in the day when it was yeah, I'm gonna write 3,000 words about Jake LaRavia minutes,
Yeah.
And just have the freedom to do that and just see what a project becomes. It's been really, really fun.
There are really cool people involved with Offside, so you should go check out the app. They just released it in iOS, and so you should go check out that and download it. And there's lots of great people that are on there. There's so many people that I respect and like, and also Pete's over there. So I want to start with, I have 10 questions for you about the Los Angeles Lakers team. And I want to start here because I think it's a really important question. What percentage of time do you think that Luka Dončić is legitimately trying to win the game versus just trying to hit trick shots and convince the officials that they should do what he wants? What's the percentage breakdown of that?
Well, the ref part of it, I've joked that talking to the referees is like his Samson's hair. I don't know that he is capable of playing basketball at a high level without screaming at referees. The wild part about the ref thing is, and we were kind of joking about this last night, right, was how he's cussing them out in a second language. And if he just stuck to his primary language, he wouldn't get as many T's.
It's true. He also speaks Spanish. You can go that route too.
Any number of languages. Yeah. You can make up a language.
But there's certain, I think I'm pretty sure that they would recognize. There's certain Spanish curse words that most people know. Yeah. Don't refer to them as hijo de punta. Don't do that. That's not a good idea. But I just feel here's what I really can't understand about his shot selection has always driven me nuts. So he hits this step back fade away over Zeke Naji last night. It was a great contest, and it's a bank shot 3, and it goes in, and the whole crowd's like, "Oh!" and everyone's so excited. It feels very much to me like he is constantly just trying. I used to say this about his switch habits, where he used to target the hardest defender on the floor. Yeah. He would literally just go at them versus going at somebody easier. And he still does this a little bit, where he doesn't switch hunt for the easiest matchup. He's not like, "Oh, I'm going to get this little guy on me and I'm going to go to work." He's like, no. Bring your best defender over here. Let me get a piece of him. And the efficiency component of this, the Lakers offense is so good, and it is, and their individual creation is so good, and it is. I feel like his game leaves so much meat on the bone because he intentionally tries to make things harder for himself than they have to be.
Yeah, I think there was this video game that, while you were talking, it came to mind. There was this video game that I used to play with my little brothers when we were all really young. It was called Dynasty Warriors. Mm-hmm. And it was like this. You know which one I'm talking about?
Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yep.
And there was it's these different factions, and it's this age of empires. Everybody's kind of fighting for the Chinese dynasty and stuff, and their position within it. And there's this character Lubu in there who is this rogue samurai who is easily the strongest character of everybody. He is this destroyer of worlds, and his role within the game is I need to find somebody who is actually my equal. I need to find somebody, and it's this it's a cliched character throughout all of combat movies and content, right? Mm-hmm. That ninja or samurai or whoever it is whose goal in life is to find their equal. And I feel like that's how Luka looks at defenders, where if he sees that, like, it was Hugo Gonzalez against Boston, it's Jaylen Brown against Boston, it's all of these best these best defenders who really get Luka going, and it brings out sometimes like the best in him, in that like it creates some of those moments and those incredible shots, but I also think it can also lead to the worst in him, which is if it becomes that version of Luka ball where it's that kind of challenge specific, that means the ball isn't in LeBron's hands. That means the ball isn't in Austin Reeves' hands. That means they aren't running some kind of a set for Luke Kennard, and everybody is just sitting around waiting for Luka to do something. And that is the version of Lakers I'm least interested in watching. And I think it's the version of the Lakers offense that, like you're saying, leaves the most to be desired, the most meat on the bone.
Yeah, like I'm looking at his matchup minutes, and like one of the guys that he has the most matchup minutes on is Najee Marshall. Like, why?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you be like, I'm going to go at Najee Marshall? Why would you do that? Like, why would you be like, this is the guy that, if it's like, well, they're teammates and he knew him, and I don't know, like this, you're trying to win games in the Western Conference. Right. Make it easy on yourself.
And you're controlling it, right? Like it's Luka who's calling that play, who's calling Najee Marshall out. This was what ran the Lakers into trouble against the Minnesota Timberwolves in that series last year, was they kept on calling Rudy Gobert out to try to pick on Rudy Gobert in these switches, where now you not only are you trying to score on Rudy, but you're also trying to score on Rudy with 4 other pairs of eyes watching you take on Rudy, on defensive pairs of eyes watching you take on Rudy. And it's just, it was meant they got their butts kicked in that series. And I was hoping that they would learn a little bit. I do think they've been a little bit better this year in organized offense. I know JJ Redick doesn't love being asked about organized offense, but I think they've been a little bit better with it. And I just think it's part of the maturation process here with Luka, who is like hardwired to be that like rogue samurai who wants to take on the greatest of all challengers.
He's mentioned like maturation process, which that seems like a lot of this, but like he's 27.
I know.
Like
he's 27, but he's been treated like Tim McMahon wrote in his book. I thought he did a really good job writing about it. He's 27, but he's been treated like a kid for like the vast majority of his NBA career, where everybody's so afraid to like challenge him and coach him and do all these things with him. And he'll actually say that he prefers like the European style, where they're like, we know you're Luka, but we still have to coach. We still have a job to do here. And I just think it's aided and abetted and enabled some bad habits.
Do you think that's true? Like, do you think that he really wants that? Like, do you think that's genuine from him? Do you think that do you think the coaches are actually empowered to do that? Because I don't.
Well, I agree with you, but I don't think it's a Luka problem. I think everybody, like you actually tweeted about this the other day, and I really agreed with it. And it's like everybody is so interested in keeping their jobs. So even if the superstar wants to be coached,
right,
you don't want to be the coach that takes it a step too far and immediately loses your job.
I just feel like the reactions are never. I think it's like he likes it, but he wants to be able to yell back at you. But if you yell back at him, like one of the problems that I really find is like when players are yelling back at coaches, because the players make more money on guaranteed contracts versus the coaches. Like they have more, like the superstar players have more authority. The coaches really only have like authority over bench level and beyond. Everybody else is like, it's subject to politics. And the best coaches are the ones that navigate those political relationships. And I just feel like a lot of the like, well, I want to be coached hard. Okay. But I have a hard time believing that JJ Redick is really like on his own accord being gentle. Like that doesn't track with like how JJ's kind of presented himself, which is like a former player.
That exchange. You saw that exchange, and JJ and Luka both said that's not normal. Like it doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen. So
I don't care about any of those things. Like I'm always like, look, these are the most competitive people on the planet. And the only the most competitive people on the planet are on the court, in my opinion, are always coaches, unless it's Doc Rivers. Like everyone else besides Doc Rivers is like incredibly
on the golf course. I think he's very competitive.
He's very competitive on the golf course. True. But like everybody, coaches are usually way more invested in winning the game than the players, because they're like, I play 2 of these things, I'm tired, and have so much money and et cetera, et cetera. My second question for you, let's shift to the LeBron stuff because I think this is really interesting. What do you think the relationship is between LeBron and the Klutch dynasty and the Lakers is at this point? What do you think that relationship is?
I think I would probably go with somewhere between acceptance that like the end is near and just outright icy at sometimes,
Mhm.
where I think LeBron is looking back at this relationship with the Lakers that he has kind of enabled by way of longer term contracts,
Yes.
not, not rocking the boat as much, not applying either direct or indirect or passive aggressive pressure in the way that he did with Miami and the way that he did with Cleveland twice. Like this has been kind of this unique thing. And I think he's now looking at that relationship and he's like, damn, they took advantage of that. And I think that's probably the correct conclusion from LeBron is that, yeah, you probably should have, turned up the heat a little bit and
Yeah.
maybe a few more kind of uncomfortable conversations and a fewer happy National Women's Day conversations, and I think there's that going on. I think for LeBron, like from a very human standpoint, this dude has been the center of the universe in every single room he has
Mhm.
walked into since he was like 17 years old.
Yep.
And then the Lakers traded for somebody who is now the center of the universe. And he is trying to navigate that without I think he's trying really hard to not make it more difficult on Luka, but I
Yeah.
think that's really kind of impossible to do. It's just there's a lot of human elements at play here. And ever since Luka got there, the only times that Rob or Jeannie or anybody talks about LeBron James is if they're directly asked about LeBron James. And for LeBron to go from rescuing this organization from the lowest point it ever has been to now a complete afterthought because they got their new, superstar. I think it's all kind of been a shock to the system that is, I think, probably going to lead to a departure this summer. Though I don't know how many options he's going to have that are all on his terms. And I also think too, like, I don't think it's just a Lakers thing. I think the entire league has kind of sort of moved on a little bit from LeBron. I thought it was wild how like last summer there were like trade speculation and team after team after team after team came out and was like, yeah, we're interested in LeBron James, but as a buyout,
Yeah.
if he was waived, if he was this, there was never the but before. And I think I think all of that is kind of led to a spot where I still don't think he knows what he wants to do this summer. I think he wants to come back, but there's no perfect option for him to come back to.
Yeah. I think, one of the things that's been difficult for him is, and Kobe set this precedent too. He wasn't the first one to do this, but he did, I think, set a precedent. There was a big power battle in the 2010s between between the players and the owners, right? That culminated in the 2011 CBA. And one of
Yeah.
the things that kind of came out of that was LeBron as a leader of the players, as a leader of the players in general, was like, I'm not taking out pay cut. Like he took one to make room for UD in Miami. And since then it's been like, nope, I am getting what I deserve
Yeah.
because some things are bigger. It's like, yes, would it be easier for me to win a title if I took less? Sure. But this is about ensuring that we hold the line against the owners for you should pay the players what they are worth. And as I am the
Right.
best player on the planet, I will get paid the maximum that you can possibly pay me. And now he's at a point, so he opts into the contract because it's 52 million, and I don't think he wanted to leave LA yet. I think it's really tough. I think Zuri's just at the wrong age for it. Like that's one of the dynamics I think that's probably underrated here. Not to get into like I don't talk about players' families or personal lives, but like as a person that has experience being the father as you do, like it would be very difficult if my daughter was at her age being like, yeah, I'm going to be gone completely
Yeah.
for 9 months and then I'll be back. Or I'll try and make time to fly out to see you in between. Or you're going to have to come out and come back to Ohio when you've now settled in and made all these friends in LA. Like that, those conversations are tough. Like that's the daughter side. Then there's the, Savannah, the wife side of, hey, like she's got her life there. Like these are the things of the real life complications that cause problems there. I still think like what's going to happen is just they're going to be like, you know what, like your career is important enough. The whole family's coming back to Ohio for 1 year, and he's just going to do the Cavs thing. I do think the relationship has been really interesting in that I don't feel like enough people have kind of talked about this. I've referred to, look, the Luka Dončić trade was a no-brainer. You got offered Luka Dončić for Davis, Maxey, and a first. You do that trade every single day, and you don't really think about it. It does not take you long to come to a yes on that question.
Yeah, Rob probably walks around his office saying yes, just spontaneously, just in case he gets asked that again.
Yes, yeah, right. So like you do that trade all the time. However, the way it was done, not consulting with Klutch, which to my read is they knew that if they did what they probably should have done from an ethical standpoint and reached out and were like, hey, I want to let you know that there's a strong possibility we're going to be trading Anthony in the next couple of days. There's a major deal on the table for a player that we feel is in the best interest. And as much as we respect Anthony and appreciate his contributions to our title, this is what's best for the organization. I feel like whoever was on the other end of that call, whether it was Paul or whoever else, hangs up the phone and goes, okay, yeah, totally understand. Sure. Click. And then the next text message is to Adrian Wojnarowski. Or I'm sorry, Shams Charania, because Woj was retired.
Yeah.
Like the next text is to Shams. In order, in part, to submarine that, because Davis doesn't want to get traded. So you start texting everybody, and you're like, they're talking about doing this, like what, the Klutch is very like LeBron's very upset. Like Davis is like doesn't want this. Like you try and put as much internal pressure as possible to try and stop that from happening because AD didn't want to leave, and they knew that. Yeah. But the fact that they did know that and chose not to have that conversation, I've referred to a little bit as like it's a little bit of a red wedding. Like they cut Klutch completely out overnight. And I feel like that part doesn't get talked about enough in regards to the relationship between LeBron and the Lakers, where it's like LeBron had built a power base there. They were literally bringing in randos that were assigned to Klutch. Every trade component I heard about was always like, I might go for this guy. And that would look
like every time somebody signed a Klutch, it was like, oh, is that guy going to be a Laker? Like, yeah. No, I think it had been a process that had already kind of started. But I agree with you that like that was the end, right? Yeah. Like, I wonder how, like, I don't think Rich Paul has this podcast and says the things on his podcast that he does. Right. Anthony Davis is still a Laker,
right? They need to trade Austin Reeves tomorrow,
right? Yeah, for a guy who, by the way, eventually got traded. So that I don't know if enough people connected those dots that Jaren was very much available, and I think Rich heard that he was available, and
I reported it. So I was like, "Hey, this is the thing."
Yeah, but no, but like with the Klutch thing, like that ended that relationship, and I think that is part of like it was always funny when Baxter did the reporting on the Bus family drama and some of the jealousy or the pettiness directed at LeBron as a result of the Russell Westbrook trade, or how she apparently didn't like that he is seen as the franchise savior and she feels like maybe she should get more of that credit. Just absolutely insane. But like, I think all we've seen since that report has basically confirmed that reporting, even though they might have wanted to do the fake news thing and they wanted to, push back on it. And she said that it's really unfortunate that LeBron is being pulled into this family drama. But I do think that a lot of the reporting about some of the sentiment towards LeBron has been confirmed. And if it's that one direction, then I would imagine it also exists in the opposite direction. And I think we kind of stand here at this kind of fork in the road when, you were describing how LeBron could go to Cleveland. That still involves taking a pay cut.
Yeah.
That still involves like there's no like version of leaving or staying that is completely on LeBron's terms. And that's completely different to him. And if I'm LeBron, you go to Dan Gilbert and you make him a bunch of money, or do you stay in LA and you make this, Jeannie Buss and, well, I guess now Mark Walter a bunch of money? Like, I don't know that he likes either of those options. But yeah, the Luka trade there was interesting because think of how much it's cost Anthony Davis. He is now with the Washington Wizards, hoping that they extend him. The Lakers were just kind of like Jeannie had said this. They were ready to ride out the string, give AD whatever final contract that he wanted or whatever, and just kind of get ready for a rebuild after that. That option is now gone. So it's literally cost Anthony Davis a bunch of money, which it now costs Rich Paul and Klutch a bunch of money because that's one of their clients. They no longer have the Klutch reclamation project in LA. That is now the Bill Duffy reclamation project that you're seeing with DeAndre Ayton and Jackson Hayes and stuff like that. And that relationship with Klutch is now basically over. And I'm really fascinated what everybody's relationship is going to be with Klutch after LeBron is gone. I don't know what that's going to look like.
Everybody was wrong in this. You can't say Russell Westbrook because he got traded there. So I'm going to remove that option for you. Who was most wrong in this Klutch versus Lakers debacle and how this fell apart? Because it's like I go back a little bit further because I go back actually to the 2021 team, which they had signed Mark and they started off the year awesome. They just won the title and they looked like they were killers, and Mark gets sick with COVID. And then Anthony Davis and Klutch is like, you need to get Andre Drummond. You need to get Andre Drummond. That's what we need. And then Marc Gasol's like, the fuck? I'm a former defensive player of the year. I won a championship. Like, I was signed here. We were going to do great things. Like, we were killing everything. And like, he gets sick and Klutch uses that as an excuse to get Drummond in, and then the whole thing falls apart. Who do you blame most for the breakdown between Klutch and the Lakers?
Jeannie.
Okay.
It's at the end of the day, ownership decides how good an organization runs one way or another. And with Jeannie, at no point kind of standing in and, Magic doesn't leave if there isn't some kind of animosity before he eventually leaves. Like to just like watch how that was taking place with Magic and never step in and being like, hey, can we all be a little bit more? You had Rob Pelinka literally walking through the hallways, asking people if they had seen Magic really loudly to make everybody aware of the fact that Magic wasn't in the building. Nobody was behaving like adults there. And at the end of the day, like what Klutch did, I kind of understand what Klutch was doing. They were doing whatever they could for their clients. That's what agencies are supposed to do. A team and team personnel in a front office, they are supposed to do what is best for the team. And so like this notion that like AD and LeBron duct taped the phone to Rob Pelinka and forced him to trade for Russell Westbrook. Like, I'm sorry. One, I've spoken to several people who say that they were in the room when Rob was making the case to trade for Russell Westbrook. Two, I've spoken to people who were saying how, they heard Rob and other people involved here kind of dismiss Alex Caruso's impact on it. And so like, I don't know, like at some point, the adults in the room have to be the front office, and they never appear to act all that adult-like.
That's a really good answer. Do you honestly believe Jeannie is going to be in charge until the end of her term? Like, especially seems like I'm getting a lot of emails about hirings in the business side and just more and more people being added to the team. Do you really feel like Jeannie is going to be in charge for this entire period?
I want to ask you this because I'm genuinely, I want to know what you think here. Why didn't the Lakers go to open market? How much more money would they have sold for if they'd gone to the open market and you would have gotten competitive offers for the Lakers?
I think there's probably business reasons for this that I'm not aware of. I think there's probably a component here of these sales can kind of get away from you and it can get a little chaotic. And that's not to say that you don't still own the right to say no and you can set terms and limits, but these things become very political very quickly. And I think
we just saw it with Paramount and
And so like the way that this goes, I think is probably they got to control the terms. I think a little bit more control. Like I think that's the whole point is like trying to control things like this is the key. Is like, well, I can try. I feel, we have a handshake agreement and it's in writing and blah, 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 which I'm just still kind of like, I don't know. I don't think I think that we're not going to be talking about Jeannie Buss in 2 years.
Look, I'm rooting for that to be the outcome, but we know that Jeannie and Mark had a relationship dating back for the entirety of the time that Mark was a minority owner. We know that she very quickly moved to remove her siblings from the conversation. And then also, like as part of, I think this whole kind of agreement that, I've spoken to some people who think that this was handled off to the side in some kind of somewhat shady ways. You had Tim Harris get his big bonus and then very quickly told, hey, bud, doesn't retirement sound nice? So I think there's been kind of a pretty clear agreement on terms here. And I think one of those terms is that Jeannie gets to do this for another couple of years. I think it's anywhere from 3 to 5 years. And depending on how it's going, it'll be closer to the 3. But what I will say, though, is that doesn't stop Mark Walter from bringing more people in to dilute the voices of Jeannie and Rob and their inner circle,
Right.
and that I think is what, like, while I don't think we are going to see Jeannie just told to exit stage left, I do think we are probably going to, I'm hoping we're going to start hearing more from the actual basketball side about, we just got that report about Tony Bennett, right? And or the announcement that Tony Bennett is an advisor. I thought it was interesting that Rob very quickly leaked that, I'm still in charge of the draft. I'm still in charge, right? I'm still in charge. So I thought that was kind of telling, but I do think that we're going to see a dilution, but not a complete extraction.
Okay, so you're old enough to have had like a very good perspective on the history of the Lakers and the illustrious history and how much success that they've had. Based off of that standard, grade the LeBron era.
I think they underperformed. They
So
had to.
Is it so? It's interesting because it's like they won a title. Can you fail them for a title? Like, are we talking about like a C minus? Are we talking about like a D? Do you think it's an F? Do you think it's like
no,
right?
No,
they won a title and they made the playoffs, the Western Conference Finals, right?
Yeah.
But the standard when you get LeBron, the idea was like multiple titles, and I'm sure that he thought like this is how I'm going to get past Jordan. Is that I've got the 3 and I'm going to rack up 3 more and tie him, and I'll have all the records. And then and whether that was part of his actual thinking or not, it was probably part of the equation of just, and I think especially after facing the Warriors in Cleveland, I think he had a real like, I don't want it to be this hard anymore. Like I'm going into these battles against Draymond and Steph and Clay and KD, and I had Kyrie for 2 years and Kevin Love and J.R. Smith and Tristan Thompson. Like, I want one of these stacked teams like that. Like, he knows NBA history, and I think that's what he expected. So, like, based off of that, like, what's a grade you would actually give this era?
I'd say like a C minus.
Yeah,
about a C, right? Like a C minus in that, like, you technically get your degree, but it's not something that you're, like, you don't walk with your head held high on graduation day for
my college career. It's like my college.
Look, I'm speaking from experience as well. But yeah, like I think, look, when the Lakers have had superstars, they win at least 2, right? Like Powell has 2, Kobe has his 5, Shaq has his 3, Magic has his 5, Kareem has his 5. Like, these guys, when the Lakers get a player, a top 1 to 3 player, they win multiple championships, let alone when that top 3 player is paired with a top 5 to top 10 player. They win multiple championships. And not only did they not win multiple championships, they didn't even get to another final.
Yeah.
They missed the playoffs outright. You could talk about injuries all you want, but at the end of the day, like, they were irrelevant in the title conversation more frequently than they were relevant in that conversation. And at the end of the day, like, I do think, if Dr. Buss was here and you were asking him about it, he'd say that was a failure. I'm not going to treat it that strictly because this is a very different league than he was able to take advantage of back in the day. But I'm not walking away from this experience like, oh man, remember the good old days? Like, no, not really.
All right, let's shift to the current team. So you were, I never saw anyone more critical of Darvin Ham than you. You were the most critical person of Darvin Ham.
Mm-hmm.
And now we are 2 years into the JJ Redick.
Second year. I want to be specific. The second year of Darvin.
Right.
I thought he was good in his first year.
So at this point, with where the team is at, and you started to kind of talk a little bit about some of your frustrations this year on Lakers Lounge and other shows, is JJ Redick a good NBA coach to you?
I don't think we can honestly answer that. Think about the situation that JJ thrust himself into, right? Like he did apply for the gig. So like, he doesn't get complete sympathy here, but you have I think it was pretty clear that they hired JJ with the idea that if it didn't work out, he's LeBron's podcast buddy.
Mm-hmm.
And enough people would connect those dots that if it didn't work out, they would be able to, after the LeBron and AD era is over, they would be able to wipe the slate completely clean. Mm-hmm. And then it turned out they got JJ in the building and they really liked him. And now I think they do really believe in him. But you think about like never coaching before. Like I put it this way, think of all of the great minds who have tried great basketball minds and charismatic people and leaders of men who have tried coaching and failed at it, and they did so with years and years and years and years and years of practicing to one day maybe get that opportunity. And for JJ to basically step into that spot from YouTube or from, like it's just, and then to do that and immediately have LeBron and AD expectations and Lakers expectations on you, with an organization that was basically running out the string and didn't give him a very good coaching staff. Like I don't think that we can I don't think I'm in a spot where I can honestly say he is. I think he was really good in the regular season last year. I thought he was terrible in the postseason. And so far this season, I think he's taken a step forward, but not the leap forward that I think Lakers fans were kind of hoping for. And we'll see how he fares in the postseason this time. But overall, like evaluating him, I don't know how anybody honestly can with this context.
Yeah, and like so much of it like shifted mid-course, right? Like you shifted to being a Luka team. And I do think that based off of every conversation that he has ever had on record, and like I've thought of JJ not a lot, like less than a handful of times, but like everything I know about him and his views on basketball does not lead. If you were like, who should you hire for a Luka Dončić team? JJ Redick would not have been on my list. I've been like, no, you need something like you need a much more disillusioned, gristled, very much like this is the way it is and it's fine.
Ironically, it's Ty Lue.
Like, yeah, that's actually it really is. Yeah, because like Ty's really good at some of the margin stuff. And he's very accepting of how things are. Like he's just fine with it. And I think like I honestly wonder how much of the experience that JJ's under is like he doesn't want to coach this Luka Ball, James Harden stuff but like that's what he's got. Like there's no choice. This is who Luka Dončić is. This is who he wants to be. And that's a consequence. I think he'd be really good at the development side, but they don't really have a development track. Right? There's no like I listened to you last night. I agree with you that they should have converted Drew Timme instead of going the Buffkin route. Like Drew Timme is like much more of what they need. And like they got guys like Mark. They wanted to go ahead and be like load up because you've got Luka. All right, let's see if we can put together something here. So you get Ayton and Smart who are veterans and don't have a development curve instead of going in on guys who are younger. LeBron obviously isn't a development curve guy. And so there's no real there's nowhere for JJ to make guys better. There's nowhere on this team that I really see JJ being able to make an impact either from an X's and O's and tactics standpoint or from a player development standpoint to be able to make the leap forward that you would want to see from him.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
And kind of on top of all that is I just think it's been so chaotic with everything that it creates a really weird environment. Now, I say this. I do think he's a good coach because I've seen, and I'm indexed on these Nuggets games, but there's a couple of others when what's been weird about them losing to all these teams over 500 and especially over 600 is I think one of JJ's real strengths is being able to come up with a game plan to disrupt whatever it is that he's facing. The problem is like, yeah, no, he can shut down like the biggest problem versus whoever, but they're still going to win because they're better and the Lakers are not. And that combination of problems is really bad where it's like he has a really great game plan, but he doesn't have the means to execute it. So that's kind of where I end up on JJ this year.
Well, I was also just going to say, like, the rosters. So JJ gets hired to a team that was running out the string. Didn't really give him like a serious roster to start his coaching career.
Right.
And then mid-season they trade for Luka and they say, oh shoot, Luka's going to want to try Mark Williams.
It's
like, you know, and then that falls through. And then this offseason, they were very focused on the upcoming offseason. So you had 2 more transaction windows that the Lakers basically punted during at the beginning stage of JJ Redick's. Like he hasn't had a roster that the organization fully believes in yet. We haven't seen that.
I'm with you on this, which is like I thought it was insane when people were criticizing the Thunder back in 24 about not going for it at the deadline. Like I kept screaming. I was like, guys, he wants to see what it looks like with Chet at the 5, because that's going to tell him not just how much he needs a center, but which center he needs. And like, I think he probably always knew, like, I'm getting Hartenstein. Like, I think he probably knew that at the deadline. And, but they had the ability to do that because of their youth. Like they were so young. You had the time to do that. I'm like, guys, you're like, Luka's behind. There's no other way to say this. As much as it's like, come on, Luka's like only 27, and a lot of players don't win until they're 30. We're seeing that kind of change. And especially like Luka's been the MVP favorite coming into multiple seasons and hasn't really gotten close to it. And that's an unreasonable standard for most players, but not for Luka, a EuroLeague MVP coming. We all thought that he was going to come into the league and this was going to be Luka's league. And now everyone's kind of like, this is going to be Wemby's league. Like, this is going to be Victor Wembanyama's league for the next decade. Like, get him in now, because like the Spurs are already the 2 seed, and half the time I don't think Victor knows what he's doing.
No, that was part of it. Like I came into this season, it's like you have LeBron still playing at a relatively high level. More often than not, this is the first year that I think you see a legit.
I always say this with the older players. It doesn't rob you of how good you could be at your best. It robs you of the consistency. So like last night in the Nuggets game, I thought he was incredible. He made so many plays. He was so athletic. He did so many things that I was just like, God, this guy's amazing. But it's like the next game, he'll look 41. Yeah.
And shoot, we saw it like there was a stretch in last night's game where it was like he's doing the shoulder shrug thing and he's running around on defense, making rotations. They called timeout. Adelman called timeout, and the Lakers came out, and that energy was gone, you know? And like we all have, I mean, shoot, like I turned 40 this year, and there are times where like I'm playing with the kids and we're running around in the backyard and we're playing tag and we're doing this stuff. And it's like, hey, look at this. I'm still pretty good. And then like literally the next day you're like, what the hell? I didn't even, I have muscles on my pinky. And so like,
I watched LeBron sky for an alley oop on one side of the basket, glide through the air far enough where he was still like at the apex of his jump on the other side of the basket, immediately make the read and kick to the corner. And I'm sitting there thinking like, I hurt myself sneezing the other day.
Sleeping.
Like the fuck are you? Like, what are you?
There are days I wake up, I'm like, I felt fine when I went to bed. How did I hurt myself sleeping? How is this a thing? And yet, but no, like I think I think with this team and like JJ Redick's place in it, LeBron's place in it, and this notion for this upcoming summer. The number of things, Matt, that like they're saying that they're trying to accomplish this summer, where it's like the Lakers want to, you're gonna have to add 3 starters because the winds are kind of pointing in a direction where LeBron's gone. So you're gonna have to replace LeBron. You're gonna have to pay Austin, which makes managing your cap that much more difficult. You're gonna have to Marcus Smart is going to be, if you're looking to keep him, he's not going to be at the number that he's at right now. Jackson is going to be more expensive if they decide to keep Jackson around. And then on top of that, they're saying like, yeah, they want to add those 3 starters. They're going to fill out the rest of the bench. They want to get younger. They want to get more athletic. They want to add picks on top of getting good players because they have cap space. And it's like, this is so pie in the sky to me. And I feel like I'm being gaslit because like, oh yeah, like they have all this cap space. They're the only team with the competitive team with cap space. Of course, it's like this involves other teams helping the Lakers. That's not something that any of these teams are going to want to do. Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see how that turns out. But
Ayton's picking up that player option, so you're going to have to figure out a way to dump him.
Well, but like more central to the point that we like arrived here from. This to me was the best shot that this could very well have been the best shot that you're ever going to have with Luka Dončić, and you punted. You got to your own 45. You needed to gain 3 yards, maybe a few more. Maybe it was like 6 or 7 yards. You know, this is still a very difficult West to go through, but Denver is down from what I thought they were going to be going into the season. OKC isn't the buzzsaw that we thought that they were going to be coming into this year. Houston loses Fred VanVleet, and apparently Ime hates Reed Shepherd. So, like, there is a path here if the Lakers, had really kind of gone for it. And at the very least, add one of the starters that you needed to, you need to add this summer. Like, whether it's trading for Claxton and showing up your center spot, or trading for Wiggins, or do one of the things, like knock one of those items off of your checklist, because as it stands right now, that is a brutal honeydew list.
You said this on the show with Raj last night, and I did think it was a good point of pointing out the flaws in the West, because everyone talks about, the West is so tough. The West is so tough. And I'm like, I think Detroit, Cleveland, Boston, New York are more complete teams than a lot of the teams in the Western Conference. The problem with the West is it's just about like all these teams have great strengths and terrible problems. It's about which one has more. And the Lakers' problem is they just have the most. They have the most like leaks in the boat. And it's still not going to surprise me if they make a run, because we've seen too many teams, flawed teams that everyone's counted out, make these runs, that I'm not going to go ahead and bail on the concept of it. You mentioned Austin. I want to ask you this. This is one of the key ones. Do you honestly think that you can build a championship caliber team with Luka Dončić and Austin Reeves on the court at the same time defensively?
I mean, I can if I'm playing 2K and I make it so that teams have to accept my trades. But no, I think it's really difficult, because some days I really feel like Austin can be your second offensive engine. At that point, you have 2 really good engines, and just surround them with enough athleticism and finishing ability and defense that maybe you can make it work. But then there are also those games against OKC and against Phoenix and against like any number of these really good teams that have length and athleticism and physicality. And if the referees stop calling some of the stuff that Austin really relies on, then that really kind of changes his ceiling as well. And it changes the Lakers' overall ceiling, because Luka relies really heavily on the way that the games are refereed too. So if you have 2 guys who kind of go about their success in many of the same ways, have many of the same holes in their game, especially defensively, and they're both going to be making, a combined $100 million, or 80, at least 80, maybe, in that 80 to 100 range. That makes it really, really tricky. So I think from here on out, the thing that the Lakers need to go into the season with an understanding on is Austin your second or third best player going into next year?
Yeah.
And if they don't have that understanding, their offseason is going to be damn near impossible to, because we just talked about everything that they're looking to accomplish.
Yeah.
And if on top of that, like if Austin isn't your second best player, then now all of a sudden you got to get the second best player to make that work.
And that second best player better be elite defensively. It better be an elite two-way player, because you can't have 3 defensive question marks on that roster. And you know, Luka will engage if you attack him because he gets riled up like that samurai that you're talking for, looking for the challenge. The bigger problem is what I think teams are going to do, because I noticed this when I was watching tape for the Nuggets game. They give up the 3rd most cuts in the league, and the reason is because you can put Luka into action and he just stands there, and then Reeves is off ball, and then you can just go behind him and just like back cut him to death. Like the whole thing is just like, if you pull them out, this is why the small ball stuff I don't think is a good strategy for Redick. Is you do small ball so you can expand, you can push more to the perimeter. Well, if you do that, then you got no backline defense, and your off ball weak side defenders are so terrible, you will get diced and sliced. I have continued to just kind of believe, like, I don't understand why there's this idea of like, we got to keep Austin Reeves, where I'm like, this is your ticket. Like, this is the ticket. I would have been like, this summer, they need to be really selling the Bucks and being like, young star, put up MVP level numbers there for about a month without Luka. Gonna be beloved. Everyone likes him. Good locker room guy. Like, this is a guy you can rebuild with. And now we have access to X more picks. And, that's the Giannis pitch. And I just think that you're going to need such a defensive force to make up for Luka. You have to have not a okay one, because the idea kind of going into the season or last year was like, well, if he gets in shape. We got in shape, and here we are. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And you're so far away from being and bear in mind, I watched the Nuggets win with the 18th ranked defense in the league in 2023. Now, they were better in the back half of the year. And I do believe that the playoffs are more about, can you solve the defensive problems in front of you, than they are about how good you are. You can be a really good defense, but if you can't solve the problems, it doesn't matter.
Right.
But you have to be at least, like, I think you got to get out of the 20s. I do think is the bar. You got to get out of the 20s. And they are so far away from it. And I don't know how you get there when you have Luka and Austin as not only on ball, but off ball vulnerabilities.
Well, like, you use the Nuggets as the example, like, they were the 18th, and they're probably about as far down the list of like statistically worst defenses to win a championship, like over the course of the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
But they were also killers in the last 5 minutes of games, which means that they're getting stops. Which means that when it actually came time to buckle up and gear, bear down and actually get out and get a stop, they actually could. The Lakers, they don't have the personnel to do that. And a big part of that was, Jokic has made real strides as a defender. And at the very least, Jokic does this thing where he's so smart offensively. He just kind of identifies where he needs to stand to gum up the other team's offense. And he just puts himself there.
Mm-hmm.
And he just kind of, and he bumps people. He's really good at using that like kind of arm bar as guys are driving by him. Like, these are things that, like, Luka, like, he's so good. He spent so much time mastering these tricks that have made him a more efficient offensive player. I want him to apply some of those, learn some of those tricks that can make him a better defensive player. Because I'm at the point here where I think that the Lakers need to acquire a center who would be the second best player on the team and slot Austin down to the 3rd spot, or get a different 3rd best player, whatever it is. But when I was just the premise of the conversation I just had with Pete before we came on here was how I think, you look at everything that a center has to do in the West. You have to deal with Jokic. You have to deal with Wemby. You have to deal, like, Utah's front line is going to be insane next year. You have to deal with Minnesota's size and physicality up front. And Şengün and all these guys. Like, there's just this crazy conference of bigs up front. And the Lakers approach that with DeAndre Ayton and Jackson Hayes. And it's like, this year, I think that's the first place that they have to address. And I think they're hoping that like Hartenstein, shakes loose because of OKC's cap situation. And I think that would go a long way in helping here. But yeah, with Luka, not only do you need good defenders around him, but that you need mistake erasers around him. And that's a different kind of defender.
Yeah, I agree. I think one thing to keep in mind, because we're seeing this with the Nuggets this year, is there's been a lot of questions about like why is the defense still getting worse when they've added better personnel? And like this year, a lot of it is hinging on the injuries of being like, look, they haven't had their forwards at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a problem. And they're hoping that, I don't know if they get healthy and it just turns. I don't know. They were good early, but that was 3 months ago. Like it's an endless, we don't know with the Nuggets in terms of can they get to a defensive level this season. But one thing I will tell you is Jamal and Jokic are both significantly worse than they were in 2023. And it's not so much that they don't care, it's that they can't have the energy to do that.
Mhm.
Like you play so many games. It's 82 games over and over with, 7, 6, like another 20 games in the playoffs.
And those extra 20 games are like a game and a half, honestly.
Yeah. And it just wears on them to where, and I saw this with Westbrook too. Like I've made this comparison a lot. Like Russ in 2010 to 2012 was a demon defensively. Like he's good now, but like he was a demon then. And then I remember he showed up for the 2012-13 season and it was like it had caught up with him. And now he just like he couldn't give the offensive energy and be that good on defense because he was just older and had played more games. And you're going to see the same thing with Luka. So it's like Luka can get worse on defense, which is terrifying. As far as like trying to cover for him. And one of the things I think is really tough too is whenever I've looked at historically, when you kind of think about these combinations of these elite duos or trios, there's usually the second guy is like a monster defensively. So you need like this elite two, and it's got to be great offensively too. So there's got to be like an elite player. Now we'll talk about like who that's going to be because it's the Lakers in a minute. I have this question. Explain to me why Rui Hachimura is not the player you want him to be. Because I've heard you criticize Rui throughout like the last couple of years and like all these types of things. Like, what is it that you want Rui to be? Because every piece of data and film that I look at is like Rui is like the one guy who does the job he's supposed to do on the Lakers, especially as a compliment first to LeBron and AD, and then actually transitioned and is a really good compliment to Luka. Like, what is it that Rui needs to be?
Well, so last year, I think it was in his exit interview, he was saying how like, something along the, I'm paraphrasing, but he said something along the lines of, and it's a second language. So I'm paraphrasing somebody's second language. So giant disclaimer on the phrasing here, but he said something to the tune of, I really hope we go out and we get some rebounders because we really need to rebound the basketball. And I'm looking at 6'8", 265 pounds of chiseled Rui Hachimura telling me that the Lakers need to get bigger to go out and rebound. I'm like, buddy, that's your job. You got to do that. And so like that is my starting point where, and I think, look, when Rui is knocking down shots and when Rui is getting shots and he gets that opportunity like once or twice a game to take his dribble in from the 3-point line and shoot a 17-footer, and he's fully engaged, he is a really, really good player and a really valuable player. But the problem is like, if he isn't getting those shots, if he isn't getting those touches, he is also very capable of just kind of like floating around there. So you'll look at the end of the game and he'll play 23 minutes and he'll score 3 points with 2 rebounds and a steal or something like that. And you're like, how, with everything that you have at your disposal physically, how is that the game that you just played? And what the Lakers need from that final starting spot is consistency and a willingness and an ability to impact the game, whether they're scoring or not. And Rui just isn't that player.
It's just weird to me because I feel like he's a capable switch defender and that's going to take away your rebounding. Whenever if you're got a guy on the perimeter that's doing the work, like they have this problem with Zeke Naji. Now it's like we had this theory with Zeke Naji of being like, and Rue's much better than Zeke, but this theory of like, well, the reason Zeke doesn't get rebounds is because he's switching, and he's out on the perimeter. And then we like he got more minutes, and it was like, oh no, he just has no hands. Like he just literally does not grab the ball. With Hachimura, I feel like you need guys who are reliable catch and shoot. And so much of this is I'm never going to kind of blame a player for low scoring in a system like the Lakers because you're just waiting for Luka to pass to you. You don't get to go get the ball. You don't get to go initiate things. And you can't really cut as much as you want to because so much of it is like stationary, waiting for Luka to do stuff. And you want to make sure he's got the space. You can't cut because if you cut, you might run into whatever thing Luka's doing and make life harder for him, which you definitely can't do. So you're just kind of waiting. And on the rebound side, I think that's probably fair that they need more rebounding. And that might just be as simple as I talked to Thaddeus Young way back in the Stone Ages. And he was one of the first players that they started using the combo forward thing. It used to be like a bad thing of being a tweener. And they were using Thad as a 4. And I was like, what do you think? I was like, you know, how much do you pride yourself on being able to play multiple positions and what that opens up for your team? And Thad was like, I hate it. I was like, what? He was like, I hate it. I hate playing power forward. It kills my body. It's not the game I want to play, but my team needs it. So I do it. And I think Rui's probably like that. There's a lot of 3s that have to play 4. And there's a lot of 4s that have to play 5. And nobody wants that. Like the 5s that have to play 5 are the only ones that are like, no, I get it. I'm a 5 unless you're DeAndre Ayton. So
I mean, we spent 6 years hearing how Anthony Davis wanted to play left center, you know, so I'm well accustomed to that. I mean, it's like the cliche of like all basketball players want to be rappers and all rappers want to be basketball players. We all want to do the thing that we are not being asked to do. And like I think with Rui, look, the Lakers haven't shut the door on him being back next year. He has been a lot better when LeBron isn't there. Because, you know, he has some more of those shots, a little bit more freedom in the offense. And I could see him being back and being a helpful player next year. He's not consistent enough to start on a team that's trying to win a championship.
We talked a little bit about this last night about on Twitter about Jackson Hayes. And I'm not sure Jackson Hayes should be in the league because of his domestic violence case. Like, that's just how I feel. I've said the same thing about Miles Bridges. I've said the same thing about Kevin Porter Jr. The NBPA needs to take more responsibility for these cases and actually be like, hey, this isn't like this. You are a member of our union. And
Magic City night, Matt. What are you talking about?
So anyway, but Hayes has been really good for the Lakers. Like, from a basketball perspective, he's been very good for the Lakers. And he gives them the dynamic that they need, which is it took the Mavericks so fucking long to figure out what Luka needed from a center position because they kept rolling out Maxi Kleber and Dwight Powell over and over again. They get Derek Lively, they trade for Daniel Gafford, and they make the finals because it's like, if you just give him a vertical rim runner, you are going, it is impossible to guard. You can't do it. There's no way to do it. Luka's so tall that his ability to throw that lob negates every option. If you overhelp to crowd the big, guys have to be wide open on the perimeter for high percentage corner 3s, which Luka will always make that pass on target.
He's looking to make that pass. That's a pass he likes throwing.
Yes. Now, Jackson is a space cadet, and Jackson is a frustrating player, and Jackson is probably not a playoff level guy. But the question I kind of have is just like, how are they going to find this guy? Like, is it going to have to be they draft him like Lively? They move up in the draft to get a guy. I don't know the crop this year well enough to know who that is. Is it going to have to be like taking a shot on a young guy? Like, how do you envision them getting the center that they need to pair with Luka long term? Because this to me is like, look, okay, fine. You wasted 2 years with Luka. Weird, but okay. You are getting this fresh start, but you better know what you're doing here. There is a very obvious plan, which is rim runner, 3-and-D shooters. Like, they better be big, athletic, able to defend, able to switch, able to cover, and great, and 40% plus shooters. You do that, and as much as the ISO Luka ball stuff is boring and terrible and drives me nuts and does run into problems in the playoffs, you are still going to be so good it gives you an excellent chance of winning, especially if you throw in a second guy like Reeves or a Kyrie, like whoever that Kyrie guy is. How are they going to get the center though? And do you think that they're going to prioritize that as much as they should? Because to me, it all starts there. You've got to give him the pick and roll partner.
It's so funny. I don't know. I don't know if you're gonna watch today's pod, but I've been on this point the last couple of weeks or so, and I'm the guy who, like, really early on in my career was like, oh, wait, I see where this is heading. Ooh, you need wings, wings and wings and wings and wings and wings, and yet with Luka teams specifically, I think it all starts at the center spot. And you need multiple centers, and I think you need multiple kinds of centers where you have a rim runner, and you need a floor spacer, a pick and pop center to have some of those minutes. You need to be able to go small. You need to be athletic enough to anchor the defense and switch on occasion, because teams are going to try to pick on Luka, or you want to be able to scram, and you want the athleticism to be able to scram and recover. And so like that center, I don't even think that one center even exists. Like you're talking about like Hakeem and, AD in his prime. And that's about it as far as like the caliber of center that you can get away with just having him and a bad backup. But I do think the Lakers think that, they have 15 to 20 minutes covered with Hayes. He shares an agent with Luka Dončić. He's getting Slovenian. He's working to become a Slovenian citizen. Like, I think it's very clear Jackson is going to be a Laker for a long time. And I'm with you, by the way. I when I heard over the summer that they're thinking about bringing him back, I was pretty pissed because it's like the tape just aired, and you have every opportunity to get out of this now. Yeah. And no, they decided to bring him back. So, but I think Jackson is going to be a Laker for a while. And I think the Lakers are basically looking at, all right, what do we need to do? What kind of resources do we need to allocate to get 28 minutes a night, 28 to 32 minutes a night of really good center play? And what I'm hoping they don't do is what they did with Anthony Davis in the defense, where they basically told him, AD, good luck. You're the defense. And I just think that turned AD in, like, it. I think it kind of steered the conversation away from AD as a defensive player of the year candidate. And I thought it was a real bummer the way that played out. But then what I would like for them to do is actually say, you know what, we're going to go out and get the center that is good and that Luka turns into elite, rather than mediocre and Luka turns into good or slightly better than mediocre. And so, like, I keep my eye on Walker Kessler in Utah, because they have Lauri Markkanen and they have Jaren Jackson Jr. And if you throw a big enough offer sheet at Walker Kessler, I think he can be gotten. There was some hope dating back to last deadline that the Lakers were trying to get Jalen Duren. He's not going anywhere anytime soon. He's my favorite center, by the way, in the league. He's awesome. And for like a Luka team. Outside of that, though, like, I think they would. I think they plan on drafting a center in the second round, and they'll see what comes of that. But I think they need to allocate a good $50 to $60 million a year of their cap to the center spot.
Yeah, I agree. The number of guys, though, they're of this caliber, it's just like you said it. Like, it's so short. It's just so short. Like, I'm looking on dunks and threes and looking at, all right, if you're an EPM, if you're a center or a power forward and you have an EPM like over 1, and it's all just like, it's like Duren, Wemby, in both offense and defense. It's like, there just aren't these guys. Like, Jared Allen is your best option of a guy that you could get, who I think Jared would be amazing with Luka, but he's also 27 and has some injury issues, and people worry about those kind of things. Like, it's like Keita is your other kind of option here, which I don't know Boston's going to let go of. Paul Reed is up there, but Paul's also now 26 and has never been in like a starting capacity. It's, Mitchell Robinson might be a not terrible option, but he's also a little bit of a head case. It's tough.
And on and off the court. I was also going to say, like, with the oh god, one of the names that you gave,
Jared Allen.
Oh, with Jared Allen, yeah. Look, if LeBron does want to go to Cleveland and he doesn't want to make the minimum
sign and trade. Yep.
I think Allen becomes a Laker.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Last one for you before I get you out of here. Thanks for your time today. Who's the next superstar you're going to get for nothing? I mean, it's a serious question because this is how it's done, and I have a name for you, which will infuriate a fan base that already doesn't like me.
I don't think it's Giannis. I don't think Giannis is happening.
Okay.
I'll say, well, how are we defining superstar? Like, are we saying first team All NBA?
No, I think like second or third team All NBA or a first team All Defense who's also really good, or even if it's at the level of like a prime Chris Middleton, which is like borderline third team All
NBA. I will go Ant. I think Anthony Edwards.
Nothing like taking more from the poor people of Minnesota.
I just think that dude, look, shouts to him for everything he's done for Minnesota. I'm a Vikings fan, so I have a lot of Minnesota friends and stuff. But like, tell me that guy just doesn't scream major market.
Oh yeah, for sure. I said this 2 years ago, and Wolves fans lost their minds at me, and I was like, I don't want this to happen, but this is just the history of the league. Like, this is just
Can I say this? After this Luka experience, Matt, I don't want to take superstars anymore. Like, this felt so icky. Like this entire deal where, like, we share a mutual friend in Kirk, and I'm friends with his family, and I like his son, and I'm sitting here like celebrating the fact that the Lakers traded for this dude who like is idolized by one of like the kids that I really enjoyed spending time with. Like, this just kind of, I don't know. I wish the Lakers, and frankly, for the Lakers to really arrive back at like the place where Lakers fans want them to be, I think they have to draft that superstar, and they have to develop that superstar. I don't think Jeannie Buss and the Buss family ever had the patience to do that, but that's frankly what this iteration of the Lakers has missed. Because LeBron shows up, and he really tried super hard to buy into the Lakers experience, and Lakers fans never fully embraced him because he committed the crime of getting better at basketball than Kobe was. And like, I've even heard from people like who say that like Jeannie and Rob, like behind LeBron's back from time to time, will be like, there's no Kobe. And it's like, what are we doing here? And I want to, like, I just think there's a really cool connection between city and homegrown superstar, and continuing to, one, rip that away from another fan base. It feels kind of gross. And two, I want to experience that again. So watching Clayton Kershaw win a World Series was freaking awesome. That was so cool, and watching Kobe grow and all that stuff was really fun to do in my childhood. We haven't experienced anything close to that since. And it's kind of a bummer.
I do think it's really interesting that for you, the icky one was the one where the team just traded the guy versus the typical, which is like the guy asks out and demands the Lakers, which I kind of get from the perspective of whenever a player does that, it's like, well, the team did this. They forced him to do this. Like, they weren't good enough. I think the problem is, like, if you get Ant, like, you just can't make that argument. They made 2 Western Conference Finals. You can't argue that they haven't put a good enough team around Ant. You just can't. You can't do that. My guy for you, though, and again, I don't want this. I never want players to leave. I don't want star players. I think about those kids that have the jerseys. That is always that goes through my mind. Like, there were kids in Memphis that loved Jaren Jackson Jr., and now they're just like, what do you mean he's not on the team anymore? And that's heartbreaking and awful. It pisses me off every single time.
Avery, like, quick story. Before the Luka trade happened, I had gone down and covered a game in San Antonio, right? Because I live here in Texas. Right. So I covered a Lakers Spurs game, and they're in the locker room. I asked a question to AD, and then from then on, Avery's favorite player was Anthony Davis, and she also liked that he shares my name. So when they traded for Luka, I'm trying to like get her excited about the fact that they traded for Luka. He's this really good basketball player. I promise you're gonna like him, all that stuff. And she's like, but Anthony Davis, like that's how kids view this stuff. And it's even tougher when it's a superstar that like somebody like Kirk's kid, fully loved from freaking day one. It's tough.
Yeah, it's tough. My guy for you though is Scotty Barnes. So 5-year,
he'd be so perfect for Luka.
Yeah, 5-year deal. He is booked through 2030. So that's how Raptors fans are gonna be like, why would they trade him? And I'm like, again, why would anyone trade anyone to the Lakers? But this is what happens. And so Raptors are on their way up, but this flames out, and then Scotty gets frustrated and asks out, and Scotty Barnes next to Luka Dončić, like that is your Pippen. That is your versatile, do-it-all forward who can pass and score. Perfect. He's the guy. So
is this Lakers executive Masai Ujiri trading for Scotty Barnes too?
Ooh. I had heard that he was actually interested in another job in LA, but that did not. That there were decisions made that Lawrence Frank was retained and extended. I heard there were conversations had, at least. So
he had conversations with the Lakers when Magic stepped away. Like he wanted that job.
Waiting for Masai to get back in the game to not trade guys. All right, that's Anthony Irwin. You catch him at Anthony Irwin LA. He's on the Lakers Lounge. You can catch him on the Outside app. Anthony, thanks so much for joining me.
Hey, I want to say, being on a hardwood paroxysm thing, seeing that at the bottom there, it's so cool, man. Like this was a thing that all of us nerds like started in this industry hoping to write for, and being on this was really, really cool.
Thanks, man. I'll be back with another video probably on Monday. Going to be talking about the playoff races and how I see things shaping up, as well as my projections for what we're going to see in the finals. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you guys again next time on Hardwood Paroxysm.